All right, welcome back, folks. So we're going to get started with the lab build. We're going to build out the hub subscription and the resource group. So right here, we're carving up some IP space, setting the region in Azure we want to live in. The hub VNet name, and I use the PowerShell get secrets or secret management module just to manage the GUIDs of the subscriptions. So let's do this. I guess I should have said already, I did authenticate to Azure using the Connect AZ account command. So that part has already been done in this session. All right, so next we're going to set the context. Basically just making sure we are dumping everything in the correct subscription, in this case the hub, and then create the resource group. All right, looks good so far. Let's move on to the virtual network. So this line here will create the virtual network with the corresponding IP space that we set the variable to here earlier. All right, VNet created, excellent. Now we're going to set, this piece is just setting a delegation for the containers subnet. So in order to deploy containers in this subnet, you have to delegate access to this service. So this is the container service. All these other network configurations here are just the other subnets. So this is the gateway subnet for the VPN. Default is just another subnet for later. There's the container, and there's also a subnet in here for a Bastion host if you wanted to use Bastion host as opposed to or instead of the VPN. All right, looking good so far. Let's go ahead and apply these changes to the network. Okay, good to go there. Now we're going to create the log analytics workspace for Sentinel. Let's just clear this screen first. All right, so that part is good to go. Let's just take a peek and okay, there's our log analytics workspace and the VNet. Wrong window. All right, so the next piece here is just enabling Sentinel on the log analytics workspace, which is actually just kind of a problem or an anomaly, I think. In theory, according to the documentation, this new Sentinel onboarding state PowerShell command should enable Sentinel on the log analytics workspace. It has been kind of hit and miss for me when I was testing. So instead, I'm just going to deploy the ARM template at this location on GitHub. So we're going to pull down that ARM template and then just deploy it with PowerShell. Seems to work flawlessly. We'll see here in a second. Not sure what the deal with that commandlet is. I didn't look at the GitHub for it. It may be a known issue. All right, looks good in theory. Let's take a peek here in our resource group. Refresh. Still no Sentinel. And we'll give it a second and move on. The next piece of deployment is not really tied to Sentinel anyway, so we'll just keep going and come back to see it. The next part is the VPN gateway. Like I said earlier, you could use a Bastion host instead of a VPN gateway. I just prefer the VPN gateway experience better than the Bastion host. These three variables here are all directly related to the authentication mechanism for the VPN. So I'm using the AAD authentication. You could also do, I think, certificates and something else, but I like AAD. It's just easier. And I'll show you what it looks like after this thing deploys. So we're just going to set all of our variables. Okay. This line, we're going to create a public IP address, and then these two lines, we're going to get information for the existing virtual network and subnet. So far, so good. The gateway configuration is just setting the IPs on, or creating the IP configuration for the gateway. And now this piece of code is actually creating the gateway. All right, we're going to let that cook for a while. It usually takes 15, 20 minutes, somewhere in there, to create a VPN gateway. So this will take a minute, and then I'll just fast forward you to the actual VPN configuration on this client. All right, looks like our gateway has deployed correctly. Let's make sure everything's here. And while the gateway was deploying, I was waiting for Sentinel to show up here, or the security insights, and it never did. I even tried to deploy it a couple more times with the ARM template and the PowerShell script. So I'm not sure what is going on there. Easier just to, takes about 5 seconds to enable Sentinel here. So just doing the GUI. All right, so Sentinel is going. Check back on that in a minute. Let's go check out our gateway configuration. Let's see if this shows up here now. Nope, still thinking. All right, so like I said, I use the intra-ID authentication, AAD, whatever you want to call it. Basically, the VPN gateway just configures a point-to-site, or we make a point-to-site configuration with the VPN. So we have to download this configuration file. And as soon as that downloads, I'll show you how we do connect. So this is the VPN client. When you download it, the package is in a zip file. So we're just going to extract it all. And really the only thing we need out of here is this XML file. We're just basically importing the configuration into the VPN client. So we're going to import there, save, and let's connect. You can see down here, it's doing the authentication. I've already authenticated with the PowerShell, so probably still had a token. But now I'm connected to the VPN, and I could access resources that were in here. And Sentinel still doesn't deploy. But that's it for this video. So we have our hub infrastructure deployed, our VPN gateway, login on this Squarespace, Sentinel will be done in a minute. Next video, we'll move on with the other 2 subscriptions, resource groups, virtual networks, and go from there. Appreciate you watching.